All right, everybody. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day today to spend a little bit of time reviewing some of the newest features that Autodesk has released in their 2022 version of InfraWorks. And so let's go ahead and get rolling. A couple logistic things that I'd like to mention really quick, however. So for the duration of this broadcast, everyone is on mute. And we will have time at the end for any questions that do come up. So if you do have some questions as we go through the presentation, please use the questions panel in the GoToMeeting meeting panel, if you will, not the chat panel. A lot of times the questions will get lost within the chat in the conversations. So in order to be certain that I do address any questions that do come up, please make sure you use the questions panel so that we can separate those out and very quickly and easily find those for you. All right. So before we begin, let's just take a quick moment and introduce Microdesk. Microdesk was founded in 1994 as an Autodesk reseller with a simple mission: to assist architecture, engineering, construction, owners, and GIS firms with improving workflows and integrating project delivery technologies. 25 years later, and that mission still holds true. Microdesk is a well-established AECO consulting firm with 13 offices in the US and UK. We have over 230 AECO consultants, solution specialists, and software developers that can help in all sectors, all disciplines, and all stages. Some of the hottest topics in the AECO world are globalization, urbanization, and sustainability. Urbanization studies suggest that the US will build 114 cities the size of Boston within the next 30 years. Here at Microdesk, we can help to make sure you're prepared to meet these demands. We use software from industry leaders and combine it with our vision and our passion for sustainability to meet the demands of urbanization. Our team of industry expert consultants are refining project delivery and asset management. We partner with world leaders such as Autodesk and IBM to utilize innovative technologies and methodologies to empower sustainable design and overcome local challenges. Our vision is to reduce the environmental impact of urbanization by helping the AECO industry to design, construct, and operate better projects more efficiently by leveraging the full potential of BIM, VDC, and asset management. Microdesk also offers its own line of products, such as BIMRX, ModelStream, and Arid, to help accentuate your workflows and streamline a lot of day-to-day tasks. Here at Microdesk, we focus on design, construction, and operations. To help support the industry with these demands of urbanization, we provide full-service consulting. This includes building information modeling services, enterprise strategy and workflow assessments, technology management, mentoring and support, application development, and much, much more. I'll be your tour guide today. My name is Mario Morales, and I'm a technical specialist here on the infrastructure team here at Microdesk. Today's agenda, we'll be looking at some of the new features in InfraWorks 2022. And some of those new features include the new full span complex bridge girders, the active decorations for component roads, realistic vegetation content, and the new model builder UI. And as I mentioned, I'll leave a little bit of time at the end for any questions that may come up. So the new complex bridge girder enhancements that they've added to 2022 really can accentuate your workflows and add those finite details that were not available in previous releases when it comes to bridge design. you were kind of limited to the content and the libraries that were available within the software, where now we've got a much bigger span of flexibility to where we can customize and create those unique bridge girder design sections directly within InfraWorks to get a more accurate representation of our model. New enhancements to InfraWorks 2022 include new capability for bridge modeling, providing for the definition of full span, complex, parametric 3D bridge girders. Where there's a requirement to exchange the default girders provided by the holistic rules, Inventor can be utilized to define new complex parametric girders. The main section is defined in the normal way by adding dimensions and parametric data. The section is then extruded. It's then possible to start to model additional features along the length of the girder, as in this case where a number of individually defined cutbacks and diaphragms are placed along the length of the girder. Whenever needed, iLogic can be used to define conditional modeling if required. The newly defined complex girder can be added to the InfraWorks bridge component library and configured as needed. The process of replacing the existing girder arrangement can proceed by selecting the new complex girder from the library. The new modeling options provided in the Inventor modeling phase are then exposed within InfraWorks and can then be used as seen here by adding girder end cutbacks evenly spaced and along the diaphragm and adding a precamber. The changes can then be made and then copied to all the additional girders throughout the model. Active road decorations have been added to the software, and if you haven't explored these are a great little tool that can really streamline a lot of the mundane tasks of adding content to your models. And these, we'll be focusing today on adding them to roads or component roads in this scenario. But what is really nice is they've also added it for general layout and design. So you not only can add active decorations to your roads, you can actually add active decorations anywhere you'd like within your model. So why don't we take a moment and explore these new features. In this InfraWorks model that you're seeing, I've just kind of laid out a quick little model site utilizing Model Builder and started sketching in a little bit of content for us. So I've identified an area where potentially a new project site will be located. And in here, I have a couple component roads, and we'll use those for demonstration. So when you select a component road, it'll activate and show you the tooltips for a component road. You can then right-click, and you'll see the option for placing decorations. Once you choose that option, your style library will appear, excuse me, and allow you to search for any type of feature you'd like to add. So for example, if I wanted to, for this bridge portion, use maybe a curved top fence, I can do that, and then I can choose which feature along the road I'd like to attach it to. So I'll click and place that, and you'll see how they instantly get added. And what's really nice is we don't have to wait for the model or the road to regenerate. And they get added to the entire length of the model. And then once those are placed, you'll be able to go in and adjust the properties of them. So we can adjust these start and end points. Do that over the top as well. And you see how they trace the road geometry, regardless where you're at or what you're doing. And then if you haven't noticed already, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a properties panel for how these are being laid out. And you can go in and start adjusting the start and end points if you want, or you can graphically digitize them as I've done. You can adjust the spacing. If I'm correct, I believe these are 10-foot fence spans. We can set up those. You can adjust rotations, offsets, anything else you'd like to regarding that fence. And what's also really nice too is we have this tilting option, and I have it on by default, but when you don't have that on, you'll probably experience what you may have been experiencing in the past as it relates to these types of objects, to where they start getting very fragmented. So if you've ever tried to put in a guide rail, a jersey barrier, any kind of anything, and everything starts looking a little fragmented and goofy, that's what's great about this little tilt option. We can turn that on, and what it'll do is it will then follow the geometry of the road. So we get a much cleaner section and detail that out. We can do that again for the other side. Place decorations. I'll use the same component. I'll add it there. And then this time, in this scenario, I'm going to need to rotate those 180 degrees so that they face the other way. Once again, we'll do 10-foot sections. And then, as you would imagine, I would go through and redo the start and end points. So again, you can add all the different content you want to your road without having to go and rebuild a new assembly. So if you wanted to add street lights or trees, things like that, really useful. Another really nice feature that I found it very useful for is adding traffic. So of course we do have the traffic analysis tool, but if you ever just want to populate your roads for a more realistic model, and if you've ever done that before, you know it's very detailed. It takes a lot of time because you have to go and add a car at a time, and then you've got to rotate them so that they follow the directions of the road and things like that. But if you just come in, and we'll just look for any kind of a car, grab one of these, put it on the center line of the road here. And then once those are placed, again, we get the properties. We'll adjust the spacing, maybe to something much larger, 150 feet, and then a horizontal offset like that. And then you can use your style palette to kind of drag and drop different car styles so you get a variety of cars. And then obviously I could do the same thing again on the other side of the road, going the other direction with 180 rotation. But again, if you've ever had to go through and add those types of things to your models, you know it can be very tedious to get them to line up just to the middle of the road and get them to curve and follow along each of the geometries and such. So you'll find that these placing decorations are really useful and really handy. They can save you quite a bit of time. And then, as mentioned, if you go to the Create panel, you'll notice that we actually have a Place Linear Decorations tool where you can actually just place linear decorations anywhere within your model just by clicking and identifying where you want it to go. So that could be vegetation or bollards, or it's just about anything that you can think of that would be really handy to see. So I think that's a really nice enhancement and can definitely streamline a lot of your workflows. Another nice enhancement they've done to the software is they've expanded the vegetation library. And they've done a really good job on this because it allows you to have much more content to choose from, and it's much more realistic. So rather than just applying a grass material to your terrain, for example, you now actually have grass and flowers and bushes, shrubs and meadows, things like that. So it's definitely a nice little enhancement. So let's take a look at some of that as well. So if we identify an area, let's go and find some open space, maybe right over here. We can come through, and on the create panel, we can choose to create whatever we'd like. And in this case, we can use strands, rows, whatever we choose from. But before we do that, let's take a look at what they've added. So I'm going to go back to my Manage panel and open up my Style palette. Inside here, we can toggle through the various groups. And in this case, we'll be looking at 3D models, and we'll go over to vegetation. And then from here, we can see this is a lot of the standard content you're probably used to seeing in InfraWorks. So I had a decent amount of trees and such, but you'll also notice now there's quite a few additional folders that are contained in here as well. So we can go look at flowers, different flowers, dandelions, sunflowers. We have adaptive trees, which are a little bit more dynamic. We have bushes, different grass types now as well. Hedges, meadows, and then what they call optimized, which is just a tree that runs a little bit more streamlined. It doesn't slow you down quite as much when you're placing just tree locations. So let's start off by creating some of this stuff. So I'm going to close. Actually, I'm going to leave it open so I can reference the naming in some of these. It'll be a little bit easier, I think. So let's add some of these meadows. I'm going to go over to Create panel. I'll come over and I'll just say I'm going to do a stand. And then from here, again, referencing the Style panel, I'll grab the meadows, medium vegetation. And we'll just define out a quick section. And the grass patterns I was referring to are actually already on the terrain. So you can see they're not very realistic. So once those have been placed, we can now see those. Stretch that out a little bit. We can scale any of this content we want. Let's just make it really visible for everybody. And we'll crank up the density. Take it all the way to the top. There we go. So as you can see, much more realistic looking grass now. So definitely a big improvement. And then we can even accentuate that more by, let's say, let's go and add let's go ahead and we'll add some of these here. Yeah. So we'll come in once again, and we'll add a stand. And this time we'll add some dandelions. Just kind of mix it up a little bit. We'll trace out a similar location. Just add some additional content here. Just get some variety, make it a little more realism. double click to finish that command. And then once again, just to kind of make it about equal, crank that up, make it a little bit taller. And we don't need to fill the entire grass, but we'll add a good amount more to that. And again, now you can see how we're getting a little bit more variety here. And it's just giving you a much more realistic look now. So I think you're really gonna enjoy those, especially when you have those close-up shots or close-up animations that you're doing. It's gonna be a much more realistic looking now. It's not gonna be that flat pattern grass we saw before. So definitely a big improvement in my opinion. So yeah, you can explore those and you'll find quite a bit of content in there as well. Another thing they've done is they've improved, once again, the model builder UI, which is really handy, but they've added some great new features to it. So let's take a look at that also. So I'm going to go ahead and go back up to my homepage and over to my model builder. And so when you open Model Builder, and again, many of you have probably seen this many times over and probably utilized it as well, you'll notice that it's a little bit different now. And so we have our standard mapping that we've always had. We've also got aerial view now as well. So we can come through and look in a more realistic fashion. So I can come in and look around to see exactly what I'm capturing, not just by road name and map. Also, I have a much more intelligent way of defining my project as well. So I can search up on top. I can grab what's currently on the screen. I can choose to draw a rectangle. I can also choose to draw a polygon, which is new. So if I had an irregular shape and I didn't want to just bring in a big rectangle and have to create a boundary and crop it out later, I can do it right now, and therefore maintaining a smaller project size and file size, so I'll have much more functionality, and it'll perform a lot faster. And then also another benefit they've done is they also have given you the ability to import a polygon. So if you already have a predefined project boundary, you'll be able to import that, and then that will define your area as well. From there, I can go through, give my model a name, as well as a limited description, and then I can go through and predefine coordinate system. And this came out in a mid-year pre-release, if you've been on the latest releases as they've been coming out. But if you haven't, you're just doing it annually, this is a new feature for you as well. So you now have the ability to predefine a coordinate system, where prior to that, all projects were on LL84, and then you could always change them later. So it's a nice little benefit. You have all of the standard coordinate system libraries that you do in most Autodesk products, like AutoCAD or Civil 3D. And you can search and type in whatever you need, or you can browse through the vast library. Once you go ahead and define that, you can choose Create Model and then continue working. And the model will process in the background up in the cloud. And when it gets done, it will appear on your desktop, and you'll get an email notification letting you know that the model has completed. Once it's been completed, you'll be able to click on it, and you'll have an option of working locally and downloading a copy of that model, or running that model from the cloud. So you have lots of variety if you would choose to share that model with your coworkers and work in a team environment, if you will. You can do that. You can also view it and browse it through an internet web browser, or you can download it and work on it independently. And that pretty much concludes the most major, newest features that have been included in InfraWorks. And then, as I mentioned, Autodesk does release InfraWorks slightly different than a lot of their other products, where it's not just an annual release. There are intermittent releases every few months or so throughout the year as they're defined and ready for release. So if you have not gotten any of those pre-2021 any number versions, these are a lot of new features, and there's probably quite a few more that you haven't experienced as well. So I do encourage you to explore those and let us know if you have any questions, or have any interest or needs for training or whatever have you. So I'll take a moment now and I'll look in the questions panel to see if any of you have any questions for me. Are there any, one of the questions just came in is, are there any Rail specific updates to 2022? I can tell you that some of the mid-release releases did have quite a few Rail enhancements. And then I also know that there's a lot being worked on right now. I am one of the beta testers for Autodesk, and I test the pre-releases as they go out. And I know that there's lots of time being applied to expanding the Rail module at this point in time. The next question, are there any car moving simulations available? Yes, there are. Those aren't new in the new release features, but there absolutely is. So if you go over to the analysis tab, you'll see that there's transportation analysis that can be done in here. And there's quite a few of them in here, and one of them is a traffic simulation. And this used to be a cloud service, and it used to cost you 1 cloud credit each time you ran it. But it has since been moved to a local system. So anytime you want, you can launch the traffic simulation tool, identify an area within your model, just draw a polygon or a rectangle, and it will utilize any traffic data that's available online, any GIS data, any congestion data that's out there, and using that information, it will simulate animated traffic flows throughout your project. So it can be on existing roads around your project. It can even be new roads that you're about to design. It'll even tell you what the traffic is to a road that doesn't exist yet, because it'll show what the traffic flow going into those roads would be. And so again, that can be run and animated through the software, and then you can save that to an animation if you choose to. And also, once that comes in, you'll also have access to the traffic data. So if you want to manually go in and start editing timing, stoppage and pileups, and time of year, time of day, things like that, you can also edit the traffic to manipulate the animation analysis. Can those animations be exported? Yes, they can. They can be exported in a number of ways. They can be exported from the software. You can also just utilize any, as it's running, utilize any video recording software to record the animation as it's happening in the model. Okay, so another question came in of do the decorations and vegetations that are embedded in the design criteria work hand in hand with the road, so so that the proper railing and spacing are used? No, those aren't defined by criterias. Maybe that's something we can put in as a wish list going forward. But at this point, you'll be able to access the properties, and you can set your criteria, but there isn't a criteria file that you can pick from that says use this type of fence at this length. It's going to be using those 3D models as they've been modeled. So if you model a 10-foot fence, it's going to come in as a 10-foot fence. And do the vegetations have any runoff coefficients for stormwater filtration? I don't believe so at this point. I will circle back to Autodesk and verify that, but I believe at this point they're more visual. But when you run any of the hydrology analysis tools, I don't believe they take into account any of that. That would be factored into filtration and such. And any improvement in asset management. The asset management, a simple answer is unfortunately no, there really hasn't. The asset management still runs as it has in the past. So you can build your own content libraries within InfraWorks per model or universal for your machine, so that content you develop can be used over and over and over again in following projects. That hasn't changed. And then you can also manage it yourself through other management softwares or just through file structuring on your system to keep an identified location where you're going to house the standard content you'll be utilizing. But also the software does utilize Autodesk docs to store and manage the models themselves. So you'll be able to use that for model sharing, but it won't be sharing necessarily the libraries that come with them. Let me just look through and see if we have anything else. Any improvement in the ease of placing Revit building models? So that's going to be, it really depends on your workflow. So Autodesk does have the shared coordinate tool that's available in AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Revit, so on and so forth, to establish the base point as well as the project point within Revit. And if that has been set up on your coordinate system that coincides with InfraWorks, that model should drop right into place at the correct location as well as orientation every time. If that is not the case and it has not been set up prior to, then yeah, you would be doing interactive placement, and at that point you'll have to kind of drop it in and then move and rotate it and massage it into place. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions, but this presentation is being recorded, and after the conclusion of this, you all will receive an email with a link to it. So if you'd like to rewatch it or share it with some coworkers, you can do that. And it'll also be shared up on our YouTube channel. But if you have any follow-up questions that maybe you didn't get a chance to ask, you can always reach us through any of those channels, through that email. You can also contact us on our microdesk.com website, as well as call any of our support lines, and we'll be happy to talk one-on-one with you, schedule any presentations, demos for you, further expand on any questions you may have. All right. So I do thank all of you for taking time out of your busy day to explore some of these new features, and hope to hear from you again soon. I thank you for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.